Hello and welcome to another D&D Stories. I am your host, TheWriter, and this is the show where we sit here and I regale you with tabletop gaming stories and remember the time when something cool happened. So, we return once more to Shadow of the Northern Plains, where we have already gathered the first of four magic dragon crystals, a cookie cutter story though this may be. But it's not the destination, it's the journey. So let's see what more interesting stuff happens to our party of 6 heroes, shall we? So, departing from the fort at the base of the volcano, with our fighter showing off his full suit of red dragon armor with 50 fire resist, we set out for our next goal, which we get the hint dropped on us, is a swamp. Because rumor says that an enormous black dragon resides in the swamp, and as there are no other real hints dropped on us, we're like, okay, that's our next destination. So we have to head as far south as the landmass allows, because a rather large portion around the coast is diseased swampland. It's just like a stinking bog of decomposing trees and mud that'll suck you under, and mosquitoes carrying all kinds of diseases and everything in between. But supposedly a black dragon resides there. So we set off down the road, and once again we start running into bandits, because if you remember, there's a 30% chance on the chart of 100 that we're going to run into these bandits. So again, it's barbarian bandit, rogue bandit, archer bandit, and we start running into another bandit type called alchemist bandit, who throws grease and alchemist fire and anything he can do to like mess up the playing field, so we don't just rush them, three or four guys versus 6. So our fighter gets to enjoy his fire resist armor, just like charging through the fireballs as much as he wants to just mow this guy down. I think the DM was using that just so he could make sure and enjoy that. And they start showing up in larger groups because the DM has realized after we crushed that dragon just how strong, level 10, level 11 groups of heroes can be. So they start showing up in groups of 5, 6, 8. And we start to get a little frustrated with this, because if you run into the same enemies over and over and over, it gets boring. So we decide to come up with a plan. And Parlesia, my character, is the one who comes up with this, because lawful good doesn't mean lawful nice. So exploiting this particular way of thinking, I said, okay, the next time we run into bandits, leave one alive and I'll start this plan for us. And we don't tell the DM what it's going to be, because as soon as the DM knows, he could prepare for it. So we're going to spring it on him. Which is the best thing you can do, really, so the DM can keep his knowledge separate. So the next time, as we're traveling, because it's basically from the western end of the kingdom to the southern end of the kingdom, and it's going to take us a while, like a couple of weeks, and we don't want to stop every other day to do a 2-hour battle with a bunch of bandits. So we pool our money, we buy some upgrades, we get some amulets of protection, some fancy rings. We already know it's a black dragon, so we start stacking our acid resistance so we just don't get melted. We find vermin repellent, so it'll drive away the mosquitoes and the rats and the snakes. Vermin repellent, I think, is one of the most useful, mundane items in any tabletop game, because as long as it's like a normal sized vermin, then it won't bother you. I mean, like giant mosquitoes, yeah, they'll still come. Giant snakes, they'll still come. But anything normal, like you're not going to get bit by a rattlesnake or a disease from a mosquito or anything. We know we're going to a bad landscape, so we're rubbing this vermin oil on ourselves and to make sure we don't catch any diseases or venoms or spiders or anything bad. It drives all the small things away, and gives us some measure of travel protection when we arrive at the swamp. So when we run into bandits next time, they leave one alive. They kill everybody else. There's a group of like 8 that try and jump us, and who are they kidding? They see a guy in dragon armor and, a bunch of other people armed to the teeth, and they stroke their chins and go, yeah, they're ours. No. But they leave one alive, and I go, pass him to me, pass him to Parlesia. So I grab this guy by like the collar, and I go up to like a boulder, and I jump up onto this boulder, and I hold him out over the ground. We're maybe 5 feet off the ground, but there's rocks underneath him, so it's going to hurt when I drop him. And I go, I want you to do me a favor. And everybody starts laughing immediately because they know what this is. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me. And the DM goes, what are you? You killed all my friends. What are you? And I go, I'm Parlesia. Bah! And I throw him onto the rocks, and he knocks his head, and he's knocked out. And we steal his coin purse, and we leave him there. So he's going to run off and tell all his friends that a group of bandits got decimated by this group of just 6 people. So we travel further, and there's more bandits, and we leave one alive. I want you to tell all your friends about me. I'm Parlesia. Bah! And so we do this like 4 or 5 times, because we're traveling across, a space the size of Texas. And if there's that many bandits, then we get plenty of opportunity to spread the horrible rumors about, Parlesia the bandit destroyer and her 5 bloodthirsty friends. So over time, we get like bonuses to just intimidate people away, practically. It's like as soon as the bandits start showing up, you dare challenge Parlesia. Even though I'm playing a woman, I just put on this man voice. But you dare challenge Parlesia and the bloodthirsty 5? Bah, you're going to die. And a bunch of them immediately run away. And the few that remain are smart enough not to try and jump 6 people. So we kind of eliminate the bandit problem by sheer intimidation, which makes me so happy. And I think the druid tried to do it too. Like, no, that's Parlesia's thing. It's Parlesia and the bloodthirsty 6, or the bloodthirsty 5. And we just start this horrible rumor about this group of 6 people that are just running around straight up murdering any cut purse or rogue on the highway. So I think we made the roads like 20% safer or something. The DM picked up his bandit or his travel list and scratched off like 20 of the 30 slots that said bandits and wrote like sunny day or rain or things next to them, just like weather. We eliminated the bandit problem not only by killing a bunch of people, but by intimidating them that this group of bloodthirsty bastards are running across the kingdom killing people. So we eliminated 2/3 of the crime problem out in the frontier. We were kind of proud of ourselves. We're making the world a better place. And then things got really, really awkward because we arrived at one of our next destinations, which was a cotton plantation. And don't get ahead of me, because you're already thinking it, and I know you're thinking it. And we discover that the plantation is run by a slave master and populated by orc slaves. Like orcs, half-orcs, that kind of thing. They pick all the cotton. There's wheat, barley, rye. It's just mostly cotton. And everybody at the table knows what's being implied. And even our fighter, who is black, is equally uncomfortable with this. But we get there, and we start asking around, just in case anybody knows anything more about this dragon. So we start talking to the owner's lieutenants. We talk to a few of the slaves, some of the help, to see if this dragon has like a flight pattern, or if he disappears for weeks at a time, or if he comes and eats all their pumpkins once a month. I don't know. Just to see if there's any details that we can jump in on. And we learn that this black dragon basically heads a tribe of orcs. And those orcs are very warlike, and they war with other orcs that are in a different territory. And anytime those orcs go to war and bring back prisoners, they give those prisoners to the dragon, and the dragon eats what he wants and then sends the rest here to be slaves in exchange for money. So they've got like this lucrative slave trade going, and we're like, oh my god, be more uncomfortable, why don't you? And when we go to ask the orcs about stuff that might be going on, they're basically the grunts from World of Warcraft. Something need doing? Work. And they wander around with logs on their shoulders, building little cabins for the slaves that are yet to come, and picking cotton and swinging the sickle back and forth to cut hay. And it's this enormous, like, it's a 100 square mile farm. It's 10 miles by 10 miles. It's enormous, an enormous plantation. And, but like I said, the main trade is cotton and dyes. So we're like, let's not stay here at all. I don't care if there's like a sub-adventure. I don't care if our freaking, our fighter can go seduce the farmer's daughter. I don't care. Let's just keep going. And, by then I realized I haven't been using like mass teleport, so instead of walking across this horrible satire / allegory, we just kind of join hands Power Ranger style and like teleport across to the other border. I was like, I can't really take us all the way to the swamp because that wouldn't be very smart, and that would cut a lot of content out of the campaign in case we were supposed to run into something. But we skipped over the farm entirely because, damn. So we learned the Black Dragon is definitely into the slave trade, and whatever monies are sent his way for slaves are probably buried somewhere in like a secret pocket under the swamp. And then we slap ourselves on the forehead and go, God, we didn't go look for the Red Dragon's hoard. We probably missed a shit ton of gold and money and stuff. And the DM's like, yeah, you're right. But we're not going to go all the way back across the country to go get it, which we probably should have, but we figure, well, the guys at the fort probably went looking for it before the dwarves came and got it. And we're like, gosh, there's just really nasty racism in all corners of this kingdom. The humans don't like the dwarves, the orcs are slaves, and just, Jesus Christ. So, we, wondering about our place in society, we finally find ourselves at the edge of the swamp, and we're like, okay, this is it. We've got our vermin repellent. We rub an extra layer onto like our ankles and the backs of our necks, and we get the fun fan service scene of Parlesia and the lore master like stepping behind trees to like rub it between their boobs and stuff so they don't get like tarantula bites on their nipples or mosquito bites under their arms. Like, everybody, you've got space under your arms in your armor, so make sure you rub the vermin repellent there too. We don't want to get surprised by something small, because that's actually something the DM would think about in terms of like jungles, swamps, anywhere where mosquitoes and disease just like breed because of standing water or bad weather, things like that. That is something to think about if you're ever running your own like jungle campaign or a swamp campaign or an undead campaign where disease is prevalent. Look up vermin repellent, look up antidotes, look up poisons that you can take so that you can get some resistance to them over time, and just like protect yourself, because it's not always monsters and swords that are coming to get you. There are natural elements that can seriously weaken you. So we arrive finally, and we're like, okay, we're gonna I guess just wander the swamp. There might be somebody living here, so we start looking for any signs of life that isn't winged and scaly. And of course we find tracks. And they're barefoot tracks, and we go, are they 1T tracks? And the DM goes, no, they're people. And I go, there's people in this swamp wandering around barefoot. Who could that be? And our druid kind of strokes his chin and goes, it could be swamp druids. This is still technically a forest. It's got trees and stuff. It just doesn't look lush and wonderful. there could be swamp druids here. And sure enough, after a day or so of wandering blindly around, we find a circle of druids. And they've got like their own Stonehenge going on like a little island above the water. And they're like doing one of their Druish, God, there's so much racism in this game, I'm starting to spill over into Spaceballs. Just what we need, a Druish princess. Funny, she doesn't look Druish. Anyway, sorry. We wander up on this group of druids and are like, okay, don't interrupt them. We don't need swamp druids kicking our asses, because druids can do God knows what, especially when you're out in a forested area. You know, we don't need to get dragged under the water by giant tendrils, and we don't need trees coming to life to kick our asses. So we wait until their ritual is complete, which takes a while. So we just kind of like sit cross-legged and watch and wait. And when their ritual is done, in the center of their magic circle, there's a potted plant that grows super, super big, and it's got flowers and stuff all over it, and they're going to go take it to a rotted tree, and whenever they attach this vine, this plant, it's going to help the tree grow and be less poisonous. Turns out this circle of druids is trying to cleanse the swamp of like the standing water poisons, all the algae and disease and grossness. Is like, well, that's kind of a part of the natural order, but it doesn't mean that it's a good thing, because if it becomes overwhelming, it misbalances everything. So they're like doing one out of every 120 some odd trees they're attaching this vine to encourage different kinds of insects to feed certain animals, etc., etc. Basically putting patches of green in this horrible, like black, sludgy sort of place. Oases in the middle of this horrible landscape. And it takes a big ritual in order to do this. So when they see us, they stop and, hail travelers, what are you doing in this God's forsaken place? We druids are here to heal the land. What brings you here? We are here to slay the black dragon who is practicing slave trade with the orcs and is holding a magic crystal that we need. And, we have no need to lie to these people. They're a neutral party. Druids are for the most part, true neutral. So they don't, take sides in most, greater conflicts like this. So we tell them the truth, and they go, oh, well, basically, good luck to you. It's like, do you want to come help us? No, not really. We're here for the forest. If you'd like to go and slay that great and terrible beast, more power to you. Here's a couple of potions and stuff like that. And Parlesia, who is, a cleric of Palor, or whatever it was, the god of travel, sorry. Cleric of the god of travel doesn't really get along with druids because, it's a different religion. They're paganistic rituals that mildly offend her and stuff like that. So she's kind of keeping her distance. Everybody else, however, gets a druidic blessing, a wreath of leaves to go around them that will save them from sinking into the swamp muds and waters. It's there are certain areas that, your gear and your armor will weigh you heavy. These leaves, these wreaths will keep you from sinking into the depths. And they offer one to Parlesia, and Parlesia is like, no, thank you. I am loyal to the god of travel, and your paganistic ways are not beneath me, but are strange and unusual to me. I will find my own way. And everybody's like, we're going to laugh when you drown. And I said, I'm going to laugh when you let your healer drown. And they're like, oh, damn, she's right. So we pick and choose our way, walking along logs, sludging. We never go much deeper than our waists, slogging along through this swamp. And we get to the point where we're just kind of wandering blind. It's like, okay, we need something. And our lore master steps up and goes, don't worry, I've got your back. And through magics of her own, she has what was the spell? Clairvoyance. And clairvoyance allows you to look for things that are out beyond your vision. So we could spy on the king, we could spy on the people at the fort, etc., etc., for X number of 100 miles per level, and by then we're like level 12. So looking for a black dragon wouldn't be a hard thing to do, and we could basically get a compass direction. So we find like a vaguely dry patch of land, and we do the magic circle, and we set down the mirror and the wok full of water, and we sprinkled magic dust on it to make a magic margarita and all that stuff, and we pitched the diamond dust onto it and all that good stuff. He's like, show us the black dragon wherever it may be hiding. And sure enough, we get a clear picture, we get a clear direction. Like, okay, good. And just as we're leaving the druid circle, the druids are already gone. They're on the move to go plant their plant. And sure enough, as soon as we're getting ready to leave and hunt this dragon, Yuan-ti show up to come corrupt the druid circle, the series of standing stones. And we're like, oh, crap. So we turn right back around and we go, Yuan-ti, we will not allow you to corrupt another holy site. Roll initiative. And we have to kick the crap out of them before we leave, because they're basically hitting holy sites from every religion, even if there's 25 different religions. And, they have to corrupt one from every religion to free their god. This druid circle in the middle of the swamp is a prime candidate. So, of course, there's a whole bunch of Yuan-ti and, a big boss guy who can Hulk out like the first one did, and they're packing sorcerers and alchemists this time. So there's alchemist fire going back and forth. There's lightning bolts. Our vigilante jumps up on one of the standing stones and is just like rapid firing his crossbow just indiscriminately into the crowd. Parlesia's throwing down buffs and heals and trying to not get squished between all the different bodies. Our lore master's like scrambling behind rocks because she really can't fight that well, and just like she has like a short sword and a short bow, so combat is not her forte, and she'll occasionally like pop out and like jab somebody in the back, or she'll pop up and like shoot somebody with a bow if she can. The Yuan-ti were traveling light, though, so none of them have, like, plate armor, and we shred through them just on a comparison of power level. They weren't expecting to get repelled in the middle of nowhere like this, so we kill them all, and we throw them into the swamp waters to rot after we, like, loot the bodies. One of them drops a map with X's all over it, and we go, oh, I bet these X's are all the sites they were going to. And so we pull it up and we look at it and like, yeah, there's the X in the capital. There's, the fort was a holy site, probably for a dwarven god, now that I think about it. Because there are dwarven gods about, like, forging and fortresses and stuff like that. So if they had burned down the fortress, that would have been another place. Here's the druid circle. There's probably, like, a harvest god in the middle of that slave plantation. Every hotspot or location, if you will, hosts at least one holy site, and they've hit most of them. So we've got one crystal so far, and time is running out fast. So it's like, well, we got this group, and they're not going to know that this group is dead for a long time. So it's like, do we stay here and repel the next one? No, because eventually they'll all converge on this spot. So we're just going to use... they're going to assume that these people came in unchallenged, and that'll buy us some time. So we kind of have a scroll of their plans or what they've done thus far, and that gives us a little more insight. So we take what weapons or upgrades. We take like a fancy headdress for the I think the wizard got that one, so he could have a couple extra spell slots. It was a headdress of wizardry, I think, which gave him, I think, 2 level 5 or lower spells per day that he could, like, store in there. It was really cool. But nothing really else of value, because they didn't carry a lot of money. They didn't carry a lot of super weapons or anything. So we pitched them into the burbling, bubbling waters of the swamp, so nobody knows they were ever there. And our our druid runs around with a branch, like scratching out all the tracks and even where the druids were, so it looks like nobody's been here in a long time. And that way, nobody will know what happened to that group of lizard folk unless they go swimming. So, feeling like we've trumped them for now, it's like, okay, we've got to take a day, rest, recover all of our spells and hit points and abilities, and then take off to go find this dragon, assuming he's still in the same spot, which we could just do clairvoyance again and look for him. But we set out, after, I think, like a day of rest, because we've been traveling pretty hard for a while and fighting a lot of different things. And on occasion, we run into, like, an angry, like, whomping tree. We'll run into a large alligator, but we just kind of go around them because we've got bigger fish to fry. And in all eventuality, we come up on almost the edge of the continent where there's like a big hill, and at the very peak, just like the volcano, is the black dragon. And he's got a cave to one side, and there's like pools of bubbling acid here and there from just like dotting the landscape from different people. He's probably just sprayed to death. And sitting up there again, just like a boss character, not really doing anything. Watching the ocean behind him or napping or whatever it happened to be. Black dragons, I'll be perfectly honest with you, listener, black dragons scare me the most. Because, like, red dragons will set you on fire, and that hurts. Or white dragons will freeze you to death, and that hurts. But at least you'll die relatively quickly. Black dragons, not so much. You'll suffer first. Acid breath is not something that you ever want to mess with because A, you could die, B, you could take acid to the face and there goes your charisma score forever, and C, you could get sprayed while you're running and there goes everything in your backpack and half your armor, and even if you're facing forward, there goes your shield and your weapon. Acid in D&D is not something you want to mess with ever. Like, even when I've played wizards and sorcerers, I never take acid spells because it just seems too cruel, I always think it's like Alien, it's like as soon as it touches something, it's just going to eat straight through it. If it doesn't have, like, written on it says resistant to acid or resist acid 5 or something like that. I do not mess with acid damage unless I'm being, like, extra vindictive about something. Which is also why I stay away from rust monsters, but that's a completely different story, which we'll get to some other time. But yeah, black dragons scare me the most, because even if you win, you might lose 2/3 of your stuff. And even our fighter, who is wearing, red dragon armor, he could lose that red dragon armor to acid damage. We don't know how, like, harsh the DM is going to work this dragon, because if it's like a certain age category, a certain size, and it's up there in size, we don't know if he's going to do like cone effects or straight on like bursts of acid, or if he's going to shove us, flap his wings. Oh, you fell into an acid pool and lost all your stuff. Shit. Or worse yet, the people that rely on charisma for their magic, if you get burned across the face until you look like Skeletor, well, there goes your charisma score and there goes all your magic, and that's really hard to get fixed. So I fear black dragons above all other breeds, as far as like the core set of them do, or as far as like the core set of chromatics. They are scary mamma jammas. But anyway, we see him, we're like, okay, do we just jump him like the first one? Do we, there's like no trees within like a 50-yard radius of him, and he's sitting at the top of a hill, so he's gonna see us coming. And there's, like I said, pools of acid. There's not really a path. It's gonna take us a while to get up there. He's gonna get first shot at us if he decides that we're a threat. And, being armored and armed to the teeth that we are, he's probably gonna. So it's like, 50 yards, we're out of range for pretty much most of our abilities. I mean, yeah, our wizard could throw. Gosh, I don't think even he had something that could go that far. But we're like, okay, we gotta we gotta go up there and at least exchange a greeting before we jump him. So, everybody line up. Fighter in the front, druid second. We'll lore master in back. We'll get up there and see what's what. So we trudge up this muddy, disgusting sticks sticking out of it hill, weaving our way through pools of acid. And the dragon sees us coming straight away. We can tell because, his head lifts up and his wings open and he kind of glares down at us. We can see like the green goo like dripping down from his chin and his maw. And if you know anything about black dragons, well, as far as eating things, they'll tear you apart or spray you with acid and then bury you in the swamp so you get nice and soft, and then they eat the necrotic flesh. I was like, this is pretty much the worst fate you could ask for. And he's got like the terrain advantage on us, so we're super nervous wandering up, and the fighter especially, because he's got to do his job. He's got to be up front. And he's wearing the most expensive, rare gear that we've come across this whole campaign. So half of it is for his life, and the other half is, I don't want to lose all this cool gear I just got. So we get up there, and he's like, who dares disturb, so-and-so of the swamp lands? And it's like, we do. We come for the green crystal that you've got there. And he's got, again, emblazoned across his chest like the red dragon is the green crystal, probably earth, now when I think about it. We come for the green earth crystal, key to the shadow of the northern plains. Hand it over, bah! And we exchange, like, insults back and forth. And the vigilante steps forward, strangely enough, out from behind the fighter and the druid, who are our tanks. And the vigilante goes, I'm going to see if I can't just get it from him. And I go, what? And everybody at the table, even the DM, what? You think you can do that? And he goes, yeah, I've got a high diplomacy score. And I lean over, and sure enough, a bunch of the stuff that he's wearing and all of his points and ranks are set into diplomacy. And I said, what kind of vigilante are you? I thought you were supposed to be more like Batman. And he goes, well, Batman convinces people to do stuff all the time. And I go, yeah, through intimidation. That's a giant black dragon. What are you going to say? And he rolls the dice, and I swear to God, he points at the dragon with both pointer fingers, and he goes, come on. And we look over, and it's like an 18 on the dice, plus all of his pluses and stuff, and he ends up with like a 45 or something like that in diplomacy. Come on, hand it over. And the DM, like, he decides, and I don't think he really knew anything about disposition charts, because if you know anything about disposition, anything evil like a dragon is never going to be diplomacied into anything. But I think he rolled it on like a will save or something weird like that. Like, I don't think he got the mechanics of convincing somebody of something, because the dragon could not beat a 45. So he kept going, come on, hand it over. Come on, give it to us. And the dragon agrees. And the table went silent. And the DM just looked like heartbroken that we weren't going to fight him. We were just going to take it. But, the vigilante convinced the dragon, just hand it over, and, he rolled against it and failed, so, lacking a disposition chart, which is like, I think, like love, friendship, neutral, acquaintance, dislike, enemy, complete hatred, red is dead. It's like, it's a chart of people's moods towards you, and using diplomacy, you can move that chart around. Dragons would start with like red is dead at the very bottom, and you'd have to do like, 8 consecutive diplomacy checks to even come close to moving him towards neutral and convincing him you were friendly over a number of weeks before he would even consider handing over, the crystal of earth, the key to the shadow of the northern plains. But we did it in one, because we didn't have a disposition chart. So the vigilante's like, I've got this. Give us the crystal. Come on. And he hands it over. We don't have to fight him. And I kind of look over at our wizard, and I was like, he's a black dragon, isn't he? And the wizard goes, yeah. And he goes, isn't he supposed to, like, spray us with acid and chew up our bones and bury us in the swamp? And he goes, yeah. And I go, shouldn't we? And he goes, no. We've got the crystal of earth. We're moving on. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, I don't even want to know what the dragon's thought process was, or if he'd just been sitting there for too long, or if he was sick in the head, or if the crystal had corrupted his vast intelligence, or like, I can't even speculate how that would have worked, like, in character. Somebody just wandering up to you, hey, give me your crystal. Okay. And he hands it over. I don't even want to know how that would have worked, like if that was a movie or a video game cutscene or anything like that. That's just what happened. I am but the storyteller telling you what happened, and I can't really extrapolate how that would have worked. But we have the Crystal of Earth. That's 2 dragons down and 2 to go. They're like, okay, well, why don't we head back to the fort? That's the last, like, friendly place. And he goes, Parlesia, can you take us there? And I go, absolutely. Everybody join hands. And we join hands, like, in a circle in front of this dragon, who, of course, like, waves us goodbye because he's friendly now. And using mass teleportation as, like, a level 12 cleric of travel, we can go X number of 100 miles, and it's at a location that we've already been, so we have no problems teleporting all the way back to the fort from whence we came at the base of the volcano. And sure enough, we arrive, and there's lines of guys with, like, wheelbarrows filled with gold and gems and magic items and stuff like that. And we go, you found the red dragon's hoard. And then we slap ourselves and we go, we didn't look for the black dragon's hoard. Shit! We just keep doing this. And of course the guard captain, you're back, great. Come take your share of this dragon's hoard. Men, give them half of everything we found. And so we get tons of money. They just hand it over. We get like a bag of holding, and we stuff it full of gold, gems. There's a scepter and a crown. There's portraits of the king. There's, porcelain dolls of naked women. There's all kinds of stuff. And again, I kind of helped the DM out. I said, make sure you do like your list of 50 things. Because if you ever have a dragon's hoard, money should be the least interesting thing there. You should have, chests, furniture, money, gold, gems, armor, weapons, jade figurines, IOUs for oral sex, just all kinds of things. Like, you should give them, like, a page of items. So you're like, okay, you found all this gold and gems, and then they shove it in their bags, and they yawn, and they move on. No. You get this whole page of stuff, and they're like, ooh, and they spend, like, 10 minutes looking over all the cool stuff and deciding who gets what. So the DM handed us this page, said, okay, you get half of all this. So we ended up with, tens of thousands of gold pieces and silver and copper, and we got weapon upgrades, and, one of us got, like, a magic amulet that we could walk across water, and, things that could push clouds away if it was raining too much, and we got all kinds of cool stuff out of this dragon's hoard, and we got to keep half of it because we killed the dragon. It was like, we're probably not going to find the black dragon's hoard because it's buried under the swamp. That's how they work. They dive into the water, and it's like a grease engine, or a grease, not a grease engine, a grease grill. It's probably like down like a water pipe or something like that of earth and rock, and then there's like an air bubble somewhere. We would never find it. But so we get half of this dragon's hoard, and that's pretty nice though. So we're sitting there like counting our gold pieces, and one of us is wearing the crown crooked on their heads, and the wizard and the druid are fighting over a magic staff because it's like got earthy spells in it. and different things like that. The vigilante gets like a new bandana for his head that's got like gems in it that keeps him from like mind affecting spells. We're geared out at this point, well beyond what we were before. So the Dragon's Horde was a complete success. You know, our fighter, I think our fighter ended up with like a +5 longsword, just like something outrageous that he would probably never top. Because when you get into like something +5, you're starting to break the game open. So Parlesia, I think, ended up with like a new like cleric's outfit. You know, the silk you can almost see through. And the plunging V-neck and the gold circlet. Then she could pluck like a bead out of it and throw it, and it's like holy fire and stuff like that. We got a lot of cool stuff to fight the bandits and fight all the other Wanti and things with. So major upgrade montage, and then of course we party hard well into the night with all the knights and standing bowman and the guard captain and all the rest, and it's like, I wonder if I could seduce anybody. Oh, look out, everybody, the cleric's horny. Ha 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 ha. And you know, we sing drinking songs, and we eat and drink and make merry, and we get laid well into the night, you know, having celebrated the second dragon death and the collection of the magic crystal of earth. So So we killed the dragon, we got a bunch of upgrades, we got a bunch of money, we returned to the safe haven of the fort, ate, drank, made merry, got laid, and we set our sights on the next goal. And we will get into that next time as we're telling the next portion of Shadow of the Northern Plains. So I hope you enjoyed this story. Leave me a like and a comment, and I'll see you next time on D&D Stories. Keep gaming.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like button for me. If you want to keep up with channel updates, check me out on Facebook. And if you're feeling especially generous, be sure to visit my Patreon. Keep gaming!